Hey everybody, this is Peter Ronnie, and this is Making Comics and Art, episode 130 something, 8 maybe. And we have Ronnie with us tonight, who I'll get to in 1 minute. Just want to do a few things. We'll focus on this. This is a little thing I do now where I share out other channels of independent comic creators and channels that talk about comics, and hopefully to help them grow. So down below the video, you'll see a bunch of links with the same title, so you can go to their channels and subscribe to them, just helping fellow creators out. And I'll mention that tomorrow I'm going to have Philip Russxplode on. He's the creator of this book. Go there. I'll have to go boop. And come on, work with me. There we go. Something's up with my mouse. Also, my internet's lagging a little bit, so bear with me. But here we go. Tragedy. He's the creator, the writer, and he'll be on tomorrow. I'll talk all about it. It's currently on Indiegogo. And then Sunday, I have Chad coming on to talk about his book. And I keep forgetting, okay. I'm not a professional here. Okay, you go away. Click, and you. Oh, God. There's like a delay in my mouse. The silence. Chad. Yeah, we'll be talking about his art, the book. He's currently on Kickstarter trying to get it funded. I want to talk all about that. And yeah, so like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, all that Jimmy Jazz. But with us tonight is Crimson L Comics.
Yeah.
And we have Allison. Hello. Welcome.
Hello.
So what are you working on nowadays, Ronnie?
Oh, I am working on A Vengeful Heart. It is my horror webcomic. As soon as I get done with issue 1, I am going to then publish it in a physical book and then move on to the next one, because with this story playing out, I have a 7 to 8 issue run. And a lot of my friends who are artists, I've gotten them to like send me pictures so I can like pretty much put them in my book. Some of them seen some of their work of how they're going to look ugly and deformed because it's a supernatural like realm that has to do with like demons, vampires, all that stuff. But it's just so fun working in horror.
That's cool. It's like I saw you posted in the Discord a vampire picture you drew, and you said Frank in the sentence, and I was looking at the picture and I was like, that kind of looks like Frank. I wonder if
it
reference.
yeah. Frank sent me a bunch of pictures and I just looked at them, and that's one of the fun but challenging things as an artist is like, you have your own style of how to draw people. And Peter, I see you on Instagram a lot. You draw people on Instagram and you have retro and stuff like that. But when you're trying to draw someone that really exists and then try to still make it in that style of the way you're drawing people in that comic, it's fun but challenging in a at the same time.
Oh yeah, definitely. So that's very cool. That's I've seen that, like, Kickstarter, crowdfunders, whatever, where they have pledge tiers where people be willing to put you as a character in that book, and usually it's somebody to kill off.
Yeah, I mean, some of the people in my book that I've asked, they're either going to be like a side character that's going to help the main character, or it's going to be one of those things that they're going to be like one of the threats in the book. So you're going to see the main person like fight that person, and they're going to have like a full fleshed out story and background, and why they pretty much like betrayed the main character when they were like friends or family to that person.
Nice. So you want to tell it a little bit about the story itself, or give a general idea?
Yeah.
I don't know what you want to reveal.
I pretty much just talk about, the premise, what I have of the book of like description here.
Cool. Allison says, horror comics are great. We need more.
Especially more genres. We don't need nothing but superheroes. We need to go back to the good days where you even had like more romance comics and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. Speaking of romance, here's Dory Jones. Yeah, two of my favorite people, and Peter, someone else, Bob Ross.
But yeah, the detail in the story. James Luther conceived in 1935. He's the product of his human mother, Emily Collins, and her rapist, Lucifer. Outsiders the world regard as monsters help Emily to give James a normal life. But Lucifer had other plans and massacred almost everyone close to his son. James awakens in 1985 after being presumed dead, seeking vengeance for what he has lost. And that's the premise of the whole series. Of course, there's going to be more shocking revealings there, but, that's going to be long down the line. But it's going to be fun.
Nice. I'll mention really quick what Dory's referring to with Bob Ross is I did like what were your 3 art influences early in your career? We got a lot of response on everything, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, especially because everybody has them. Anybody who's an artist working on comics, very, very inspired by tons of people, and it just grows every generation. Who would you say, like specifically, like the style you're going with your comic, which I like, if anybody's seen the cover art, is a panel from your comic. What artists have inspired that sort of approach in your work?
I mean, I'm definitely never, well, I can't say never, but Bernie Bryson is a big inspiration. When you see some of his work in like I, Frankenstein, or even when he did work for like some of the Creep Show comic books that he worked with Stephen King, just really great horror artists. Or if you want to get into the manga realm, I really dig Junyu Ito and the work he's done with the Uzumaki and all the horror realms that he's done. Just trying to find ways to make something scary where it's not always gory. That's really fun to work around.
Right. Yeah. Definitely, like, Bernie's big influence in me and my work, and definitely jumping in as an inker early on, inspired by his work. But he's, I've looked through all the names that have come across, and Bernie was definitely one of the big ones.
Oh yeah,
Um,
especially if you're trying to work in like a horror genre. I think that that's a big like inspiration for a lot of people.
yeah, it was, it was a good one. That's for
Hmm.
sure. Yeah.
For sure. I
And,
mean, for a person to like not just make a monster look scary, but when he draws the monsters in like a dramatic sequence, you could see like the emotion in Frankenstein's face, the sadness, the terror, the wanting to be accepted. And that's just amazing is that, as an artist you have to strive for is, trying to tell a story not just by in the words but through the artwork itself. Like, okay, the dialogue is there, but this artwork alone is just telling me what's going on.
right. Yeah. Um, what was I going to ask? It just had something in my mind. I'm trying to do 6 things at once, so it's always challenging. Um, but what who would you say like inspired your writing on your comic?
Oh man. I would definitely say Stephen King, because with Stephen King, he just takes not just a book and writes it. He gives like a complete backstory on, this killer, the world, and everything. And that's just really fun because when you really watch like even like horror movies, especially ones that have like 7 movies in the run, it's just fun trying to create not just a creature that people are going to like, but like basically a whole universe or whole like world that evolves around that character and explains why they're able to do the things that they do, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I love his attention to detail,
Hmm.
uh, which is excessive at times, but so
Yeah.
engaging. Like
Hmm.
he doesn't just throw detail after detail after detail. It's actually like it really creates a whole universe for you to imagine. You
Yeah.
know, and in comics, it's a little different. It's like you're creating um, the environment artistically, but it's also it comes across in the writing as well.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, sure, now you have a lot of comics that don't focus heavily on dialogue, but with the EC comics, with a lot of their horror comics, there's a lot of dialogue in there, but it's not like dialogue to the point where it's like, okay, this writing is just going on and it's pointless. It's a big part of the story and it's why it's there in with the drawing itself.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Like I know a lot of people I know love those easy books, and
Hmm.
my brother had like a collection of like the collected hardcover editions back in the day that had a lot of those stories in them, and
Yeah.
flipped through them over and over. And like the art was amazing, and the stories were creepy as hell.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
And also too, I haven't been doing comics too long, but I am part of the 100s just like you, and it's just been fun to evolve over the years by not putting too much like writing in my panels unless it's necessary, because when you're doing everything by yourself, it's all a learning process. So you have to learn, okay, I draw this great panel, but the dialogue I want to add into it is too much. So what could I cut to still get the point across?
right, right. Are there limits to what you will do in a comic? Like, I'm sure you don't want to make it too gory.
No, I don't want to make it too gory. Like I'll bring
Yeah.
up a panel and like read the dialogue that's there. Do. All right. And this is like one of my favorite panels right here. I'm probably gonna when I come out with my physical book, I'm probably gonna make this into a poster.
All right.
Yeah.
Here we go. Actually, let me do this. Yeah, give it a full screen so we can see it better.
Hmm. All right. So pretty much here, it's like depicting the woman Emily who's getting ready to be raped by the devil, and you just see like with the comic too, the real world is going to be like made of bright colors, while the ghost world, demonic realm, it's still going to have colors in it, but it's going to have a lot of gray and dark tones as well. So you have like a difference to it, which is really fun to do because trying to find out how much gray that you could use to make the picture stand out differently, and choosing what type of color to use to the point where like here in the top or right hand you have the skeleton face and it's pinkish enough to show the color of flesh, but it's not too bright, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So it's really fun. But pretty much here I have the dialogue. Emily looks shocked as her dream man has become her worst nightmare. The devil himself begins to rape her multiple times until the passing of Halley's Comet. You don't need to see him actually raping her, but you could see, okay, this man with long hair with devil wings and everything is gonna like do something bad to her. So it's one of those things as an artist where you have the dialogue and you have a still image, but then with the help of the dialogue with the image, it's basically creating that like the rest of the story in your head, so you don't have to have like 5 panels of a scene that's not necessary. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No. And I like, I've been digging the style you're going with.
Thank you.
Said, the gray, white, black and gray and red.
Yeah. And even with this, I have these ghosts as green, but it's still not like too bright. It still has like those dull colors to it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's vomit green.
Yeah, exactly.
No, that's great.
I'm gonna stop sharing here. So,
Cool.
But yeah, just it's been really fun. And
nice.
For anyone who doesn't know, Peter knows, and I think I know Dory knows because she's following me. But me and my co-host Jason Alexander, Jason, he's been on the show as Fogbreaker Studios. Every Thursday, me and him do a show called Comics Della Morte, where we review horror comics. We'll talk about the art, the writing, and how scary it is, and we'll rate it from like 1 to 10. So it's been fun there to like pretty much not just read comics, but to explore how big and grasp more people are like digging into making horror comics instead of just like, oh, we need more content out there.
Right. Yeah.
And then also too, yesterday we didn't review any comic. We just talk about a topic too, because it's just fun to talk about any horror topics. Like one time we talked about the art of creating a jump scare. So we talked about how you approach that in a movie, how you approach it in a comic, and how would you approach it in a novel. And then sometimes we'll have special guests on the show. We've had Gary Hodges that you've had on the show as Dinosaurs versus Mars Bots. We talked about his book, and then he came on to talk about different topics with us. So it's just fun to talk about horror related topics with your friends, and not just with your friends, but to help promote them as well.
I want to mention, like, I watched a series on Netflix recently called Brand New Cherry Flavor.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you've watched it.
Probably not.
Definitely recommend it. And it's not for kids. It's pretty bloody and there's nudity in it. And, I knew nothing about it, and I just turned it on and watched it, and it was like, this is crazy as hell, and it's really good.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's even YouTube channels out there called like Crypt TV, where basically this company, they just make short films that are like probably 20 minutes, even 15 minutes long, but they created a whole universe where all these different monsters live throughout this universe, and it's pretty good filming. It's not like really cheesy that you could tell it was done with like someone's like family owned camera.
Right. Nice. Yeah, there's a lot of amazing. Like if you really search around YouTube, you can find shorts and even animated films and stuff. You know, I had Jim Luhan who does that stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, really, really creative stuff, real gems. You know, not everything has to be Hollywood.
For sure. I mean, some of the best 80s movies, especially in the horror genre that came out, didn't even go to main theater. They just went out to VHS.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And nowadays it goes to streaming, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much.
Let me catch up a little bit in the chats. We got a bunch of people here. Okay, so Allison says, totally agree, completely agree to Torres is talking about Bob Ross as an influence. Is my mouse not working at all now? I think I do have to change the batteries. And Norris goes, thank you. I am downloading some Kirby romance comics this weekend on my to-do list. Yeah, you know, back before superheroes, romance was big, and Kirby was definitely a part of that. She goes, because I see that in my future. Yeah, definitely. Allison goes, cool. Had to come back and throw a shout out for Ross. He was key for not feeling bad if I made an error or mistake. Absolutely. Happy trees, only happy trees. Allison, if I ever get my head clear to work on my books of Shadow series, I would be returning to my modern fantasy horror series. Awesome. And in regards to her influences, Todd McFarlane, Mark Silvestri, and Katsushiro Hanamoto, excellent all. Was Katsuro, that was Akira, I believe. I could be wrong. I get all those names mixed up. EJB is here, and he says, I really like the look of the grayscale with a spot color. Talking about your comic. Dory says, I have to sign off, but I'll watch the replay later. Take care. And 24 Eyes is here. Welcome, welcome. And, yep, Allison says yes. So
speaking what Allison said, Tide McFarlane and probably I'm a butcher his name, Mike McNota. You know, Hellboy. Yeah, Hellboy and Spawn is great examples if you wanted to do like a superhero genre comic, but make it in a horror realm. Like those two are definitely big inspirations because I am going to have action in my comic where, you know, the main character is half human, half fallen angel, and he's going to have to come across other supernatural characters and pretty much fight them and kill them. So you're going to see, you know, some action in there. So definitely Hellboy and Spawn are two big inspirations.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's like I always think of like Hulk pretty much has all the ingredients to be a horror comic, and in fact, the sort of recent iteration, the Immortal Hulk, where you can't kill him, but he can be, you know, really torn apart and mutated in very ugly, disgusting ways, has fans, you know, excited about Hulk again.
Yeah, for sure. And not even just that, but like, you know, besides the Hulk, you could easily make a one Marvel character into a horror movie, and that's the Wendigo. That character design is just really great, and just, you know, well when it first came out, it was well drawn, but over the years it transformed to looking different. But yeah, the Wendigo could definitely be a great Marvel like horror movie if they wanted to really do that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they got things in the works, and they're, you know, they got Venom with Carnage
Yeah,
coming out, and they got I always mix up the names, but the vampire character is Morbius.
yeah,
Yeah, okay, and the artist is Mobius. Okay, yeah, I always want to switch them up.
yeah.
But yeah, that was a good comic character, Morbius. We'll see how he translates in movie form.
Yeah.
But I like Jared Leto, so I'm sure it'll be great.
Well, the image that they showed, like the still image of him being like in that vampire form, really looks great. But we'll see exactly how they approach like that story alone.
Yeah, yeah. It's he goes on a journey, and because he's got some sort of blood thing going on, and yeah, and thus gets mutated into Mobius form.
Yep.
But
I can't wait to see what they do with Carnage. Like I've seen trailers with it, but it looks like they're trying to make him really gruesome looking in the trailers. So that's really exciting. I've been always a fan of Carnage more than I was of Venom.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Carnage, you know, I mean, he looks different as different artists work on him. And in fact, I did a commission of Carnage, where if you look way back in my videos, you could find I uploaded 2 videos without narration, and a third where I combined the videos and did a little narration over. But yeah, it's interesting character for sure.
Yeah.
So what else you got going on?
Well, that's pretty much it. Just my horror show, doing my horror comic, and then, you know, trying to find time in there to pretty much like just keep my health under track. You know, with, you know, the thing is, I try to put out a episode at least every month. You know, some people on Tapas, I think that's how you say it. You know, a lot of them are putting out like a new episode like every 2 weeks or every week. Sadly, you know, I would love to do that, but I have to pace myself, because anyone that doesn't know out there, I have a movement disorder called dystonia, where it causes muscle spasms, tremors, and fatigue. So it's almost like Parkinson's, but without the whole memory problem. So, you know, just pacing myself and knowing, be like, okay, today I just need to sleep and not draw because I'm just going to be in more pain. But at the same time, at something like this, it's not going to tear me down. It just motivates me more to get my work out there, because you never know if you're going to be able to draw again or anything like that, because some people, they have to give up to do what they are. There's a lot of guitarists who got that and they had to learn how to play the guitar again, or just go to something different with music.
Right. Yeah. It, you know, there's a lot of people in the industry that have challenges. I know, you know, like people with mental health issues, and people with actual, you know, serious disabilities and whatnot. But you know, there was even one person who showed up in my chat, said he had no fingers through an accident, maybe. But he was an artist, so you know, he found a way around it. And you know, it's like, regardless of, you know, if you want to do something, find a way, make it work.
Oh, yeah. Allison there, she says something really good. Yeah, I could relate to that.
Right. Yeah. I know you're painting out multiple sclerosis and stuff in life in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She was saying before, cannibalistic spirit of Native American legend. Yep, definitely are.
Yeah, very much.
And she was agreeing with Mike Noah, right? Rocks, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he does. Yeah, so it's like I definitely have heard of many people with all kinds of different disabilities, and
Yeah.
and still putting out work. I mean, if it's
Mm-hmm.
something you love, if you could do it full time, great. If it's only part time, that's hey, whatever. It's
Exactly.
something you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Follow your dream and do it regardless.
Yeah. I mean, I've came out with it was in the AAA a community where I put out a 6-page Christmas story. I did that. I was happy about that. I'm I'm getting my work out there no matter how I do it. And I've had commissions here and there. I don't focus too much on commissions because it's one of those things like I want to just focus on my book after I do the day job because, with my illness, it could take out quite a bit of hours. So, yeah.
Yeah,
But,
yeah,
the commission's been fun. Not, it seems like everyone could say it, but it's one of those things that, if you could say that you came out with a published book, even if it was part of an anthology with other creators and you made money by doing commissions, that's good. I mean, there are a lot of people out there still that wish they could do even what you could do because they're not taking that extra step. And sometimes you just need a community, and that's what I could say. Definitely is that me and you know each other for a while,
yeah.
and you've had me on the show in the past, and you've been really great, like with bringing people on and just being a great guy. And then we have
Thanks.
our private group that me and you hang out with Mike Emmerich. So yeah, just really great inspiration. And it's great when you're around a lot of people that want to focus on working and are positive and a great influence as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we're not all born equal, and
Mm-hmm.
we don't go through life as equals or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's like we all have our own challenges. Even the wealthiest people out there have their own issues and whatnot. So regardless, you power on and make whatever you want to happen.
Exactly.
Allison says, yeah, she has a friend who has stubs for fingers, and he's an artist. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it sucks that like bad things happen to good people, but it's like you just buck up and do the best you can. It's like I don't consider my life perfect in any way, and I have my challenges, and it's like I power on every day and work on projects and try to better my career, and
Mm-hmm.
None of us are given a golden life
No.
where everything's easy.
Mm-hmm.
If only. But so what are you reading? Well, of course, with your show, you're reading a lot of horror.
Yeah.
Is there any new comics out there that you caught your eye?
I really haven't seen anything that really wants to catch my eye right now, except for I want to bring Marv on the show after I get
Right.
his book because he has some really great pictures there that definitely falls in like the horror aspect.
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely want something like that.
For those that don't know, more of artwork, who has been on my channel a number of times, In fact, last time he was here, I mentioned, he essentially came on my channel in the beginning stages of working on this comic, and it's called Sin Killer. It was funding on Indiegogo, and I actually missed it, but he said, don't worry, there'll be other ways to get it. I think he's going through Arrow Comics, if I'm not mistaken.
Gotcha.
Much like Russ Leach with his Only Death Will Save Us comic. So I'm very glad about that. It's like timing, man. It's like too many people coming out with too many things, and I don't have enough in the bank to cover it all. But definitely it would be great to see him on your show talking about his comic, and because he really started out traditional and then went digital during. I'm really excited and looking forward to like what the second issue will look like, and he has a much clearer vision of how he wants to work, and what he wants the artwork to look like and all that. So I think it'll only get better and better. I always love seeing that, like the evolution of the artist before your eyes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So,
does anybody have any questions for me in the chats? Just want to throw it out there. If you do, you could ask me now.
Yeah, there's people here. Throw your questions after us. So why Crimson Owl Comics? Why the name?
Well, pretty much when I first came into like the art realm and like the comic world, I was doing like a lot of kid-friendly stuff, like drawing anamorphic characters, like a Detective Turtle and stuff like that. And I was doing actually like interactive comic books where kids could touch things and like you'll see the character run or do like a punch with the sound effect. That was fun, but then the company that I was making the book through, the second one, shut down. So I was like, you know what? I need to focus on branding myself in a different way. And I was like, instead of going digital with animation, let me just try to do traditional with like just stilled image. And that's when I started doing like the web comic. And then once the web first episode is season is done, I'll publish that.
Right.
And with Crimson Owl, why that?
Yeah.
Because I love owls. That's my favorite animal that flies. And pretty much I explain it is like the word crimson represents, blood, and in a spiritual aspect with owls to like the Native American culture, they represent like wisdom or the afterlife. So it's kind of like I started doing this with the animation and then I transferred to horror and working on that stuff. So it's like through trials and tribulations, I have been reborn, and that owl kind of represents that.
Right. Yeah. Very cool.
Because as an artist, we all think that we know what we want to do for a living as an artist. Like, oh, I want to make this type of comic book, or I want to make this type of art. But then in your journey, you actually realize, hey, I want to do this instead of that, because that's the point of an artist, is trying to find yourself, trying to find your voice in this huge crowd of everybody else trying to, gain the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Allison is making sure she wants to read your comic book, and you said
yes,
it's Tapas. The link is in your link tree, right? I have your link tree links down below. People can go there, click on, and see, like your YouTube channel, your Instagram, and your Tapas. So check it out there.
Mhm.
And she says, the owls are not what they seem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever like seen an owl up
Oh,
close?
yes, I
Yeah.
have. Hmm.
Cool.
They're amazing.
Um, I mean, I've seen owls. I'm trying to think
Mhm.
if I actually seen one in person, up close, and I want to say yes, but I can't say with certainty. It's like I've seen various different animals at school.
Mhm.
They bring in the animal guy, brings in some weird animal for all the kids to check out. But I
Yeah.
don't know if I ever seen an owl up close.
Yeah, that's the great thing about, I'm not originally from Florida, but I live in Florida now for
Right.
about 13 years. But before that, I lived in St. Louis, Missouri, and then we moved to California, Missouri, which is a small country town. So it's one of those things I love going to the country because you get to see so much beautiful nature and you could actually see the stars at night. Man, there's
Yeah.
been places I've gone to like camping where I've seen like, the full bright stars at night and it's just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm country, but it's not real country.
Oh yeah. Like
Yeah, I was out at a farm
mhm,
for a couple of months, like maybe a month and a half, something like that. And definitely out there, there's like almost pitch black except for like
mhm.
one light from a neighbor, and you could look up and see all of the stars.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. And I mean, speaking of owls, it's like I've definitely heard them, but I never
Mhm.
actually like knew where they were or spotted them in a tree or anything. But I definitely hear them around.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd be surprised how many times, you know, even though I have the dystonia, I still try to find ways to exercise. Sure, sometimes now I have, if I'm going somewhere that has to do with a lot of walking, I have a cane and stuff. But there'd be times where I'm like walking and I see just an armadillo passing me by. And I'm like,
Nice.
oh, I'm like, roll up into a ball and start rolling. I haven't seen that yet, but it'll be cool when I do.
um, I went from really wanting to do Western comic style and
Mhm.
not I am much more stylized with my action figure anatomy. Yeah, and
Yeah, and
she goes on.
that's great. That's great too. I mean, for people out there, you don't have to make gruesome horror. I mean, look at one of the biggest like horror writers out there, and he writes for kids, and that's R.L. Stein. Like,
Yeah,
if you want to write a comic book that has to go with like that type of horror instead of the whole bloody stuff, you could definitely do it and still find ways to make it scary.
yeah. I mean, there was plenty of horror before the slasher type films, and
Hmm.
it's like that's not real horror. That's yeah, like real horror gets under your skin and freaks you out, like if you're out at night.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, and Allison goes on to say, I miss seeing the stars at night. Uh, there's too much light pollution. True, true. Especially if you're living in a city or something, it's just like you don't realize it, but there's billions of stars in the sky.
Hmm. Yeah, that's one of the great things too with like where I'm located at in Florida. What is it? Cape Canaveral is only probably 3 hours away from me, I think. So whenever they shoot like a rocket off into space, I could literally go outside and see the rocket almost the size of my digital pin here,
Right.
you know. So it's
That's
pretty cool to see something like that.
that's pretty awesome.
Hmm.
I'm a big fan of watching the rockets launch and all that.
Hmm.
And,
Yeah.
keeping up as best I can with what's going on.
Hmm.
Because next generation will probably be a lot more people going into space. We'll see.
Yeah. Right.
At least the guy from Amazon, Jeff Bezos.
Right.
So what do you think about the current independent comics creators and just the industry like atmosphere out there from your perspective?
I definitely love it because it's one of those things people are realizing more and more that, you know, unlike you had back in the day, it is more possible to get your work out there. So it's great to see more people, you know, doing what they love to do. Like you said with Marv's book, I remember him been doing that for years when I met him. So it's just great to see people like him or anyone that never would have had another opportunity if it was still going on like it did back in the 90s and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's kind of like the the new surgence of people popping up working on their own comics, and just when you think you know everybody out there, a whole new group of people pop up. It's like, I've never heard of that guy. It's like,
yeah,
what's happening? What I'm excited about is there actually, distributors popping up now.
Oh yeah,
and that's exciting because from the people who are bringing us Arrow Comics comes Liberty Distribution, and it's not just Diamond anymore, and it never really was, but Diamond is like it's 90% of how comics are distributed, and then there's all the little guys that nobody knows of. But it's exciting to see not only Liberty, there's another one, I'm not going to remember the name, but also another distributor that's popped up and actually messaged me. It's like, how are you going to distribute your book? You want to use us? And I was like, well, when I'm ready, I'll come to you for all the information, because I do want, as an independent creator, I'm not independent wealthy. I do want to get the best deal possible. But it is great to see, and I want to support them all, so I'll probably eventually get them on my channel too, because it's important to let people know that there are options. There are a lot more options out there of getting your book out there and getting it distributed, not only in the United States, but around the world. And, I know it's always a factor, like when it comes to, doing a crowdfunder, like, is the Kill a Bad, I had Jason Gungor on not too long ago, and at the time, him and his partner weren't going to give international buyers an option other than digital. But now they opened it up. I saw a recent update post where they opened it up to international customers, and I'm not sure what they're using, but the fact that they looked around and did some research and found the way to make that happen is a great thing, because they're like top creators doing their own book, and weren't aware of maybe an option that would make it possible. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, because it's like I'm totally aware, like shipping international costs way too much money to make it feasible in many ways, but there are more and more options popping up, and that's great to see. Because it can't just be it's an industry of great comics, but there's no way of getting them into people's hands.
Yeah.
So let's see. Allison goes on. Also, believe blood is stored in the body at 2000 psi. Okay, I don't know what psi is. Pints? No, I don't know.
So with you, with horror and everything, like what comic really pops out at you or story?
I mean, you know, I do remember, like you mentioned before, like Mike Mignola with Hellboy.
Mm-hmm.
I remember waiting for that book.
Yeah.
Because I was a fan of his artwork, and you know, I knew little to nothing about the project itself, other than, you know, he was the artist. It was like his creation, but John Byrne was in a script.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm sold. And this is before internet, so I just go to the comic store.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure I went to Midtown Comics in Manhattan, and saw it, and just picked it up and was so excited. Yeah, I went home and read it and was thrilled, and collected it for a long time. But you know, it's like I barely read the books I do have. So I'm not current with a lot of what's out there.
Yeah.
Other than, you know, like getting a chance on here to talk with creators. But I mean, what sells me when it comes to comics, like what sells me first is the art. It's always been the case. It will always continue to be the case, unless there's like some extreme writer that I love that does a book, and you know, I'll take exception. But it's always a matter of the artwork, and is it something interesting? It doesn't have to be original. It doesn't have to be groundbreaking. It just has to be, you know, something that piques my interest.
Yeah.
And then, you know, when it comes down to it, when I've already picked up an issue, the story does have to be good enough for me to continue to be into it. So it could be, you know, some amazing artist on the book that I picked it up for initially, but if the story is lackluster, then I might just pass on the rest of the series.
Yeah.
And you know, it doesn't have to be painted by Rembrandt. It doesn't have to be, you know, it's like, you know, art is always suggested, but you know, it's like I love a wide range of art. Oh, one of the names that popped up during my, you know, who is like an early artistic inspiration or influence for you, was somebody named Ted McKeever. I'm not sure if you know that name, but he did a lot of, I'm not even sure if it was like under the Epic line of Marvel books back in the day. But he did a book for Marvel called Metropolis, and he did a bunch of other things. He sort of got a very gritty indie style and approach. And I would definitely recommend, if you never heard of him, to track down some of his work. Because
I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, because he's that, and I'll give you his name so you get you can track him down for sure.
Yeah,
but
that just reminds me of another book I'm gonna talk about. But you finish what you were gonna say.
Okay, yeah, it wasn't like your typical artist or style or anything, but really, like I just read a bunch of his books and became a total fan, and I wouldn't have been such a big fan if I didn't take a chance on something that was just different.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really like, I mean, I've always been that way of reaching outside what's popular and at least checking something out, you know, and giving it a chance. You know, I'm a big fan of Nexus, but the first issue of Nexus I picked up was pretty, I want to say, you know, amateurish compared to later issues.
Gotcha.
But I picked up that first issue and I was hooked, and it was because it was a phenomenal concept and really good introduction. You know, the art wasn't slick, but didn't matter. You know,
Yeah.
I liked the art good enough, but it was really like the concept of it that was amazing. So yeah, that's all I'll say. I'll definitely drop Ted McKeever's name to you, so check out his works.
Yeah. I can't remember the artist's name, but another character that you could use from Marvel that would be a great like action horror, kind of like, you know, you had Blade and Wesley Snipes, but
Right.
I would love to see if they could do a Werewolf by Night movie or even
Oh,
a
yeah.
TV show. That would be amazing to watch, because that's just definitely one of those characters that has like really big horror aspects to it.
Yeah, and you know, he had a lot of great comics with the character in it back in the day.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if Marvel plans to bring him back or anything, but yeah, if they were to do sort of like their horror end of movies, that would definitely be a character that would be fun and interesting and engaging. You know, it's like, who doesn't like werewolves? You know, it's like,
yeah. I mean, because with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they did announce that they're going to be making a Blade movie. So, you know, if they're going to be doing that, why not have like other characters in there? You know, sure, they had them in the on the TV shows, and then you had Nicolas Cage, but I would love to see, you know, a movie where you have the werewolf by daylight, Werewolf by Night, and you had Blade, and then you had all these like monster heroes and, you know, anti-heroes team up in a movie. That would be really awesome to see.
Yeah, and you know, you don't have to introduce every new character in like a new movie. Like, I could see where they could do a Blade movie and then just have Werewolf by Night as like the villain in it or something. You know, it's like you know, I'm sure they could do that too. You know, I know a few years back when Universal was planning to revive like all their well-known horror characters, it wasn't successful. I happen to like it. I like that movie, but it just didn't hit the people at the time for whatever reason.
The Mummy movie, or are you talking about like
the Mummy, yeah, because that was supposed to lead into Invisible Man movie, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde movie, you know, a whole series of Frankenstein, them sort of linking all their horror characters in sort of one dark universe is what they called it. And that would have been insanely good, but you know, I thought it was a good, decent movie. But to launch a sort of franchise like that, it probably should have been stronger,
Oh yeah, for sure.
And seemed like public reaction to it was like, meh, I didn't really like it.
Yeah, I mean, it had its elements there. Like, usually in the past we've seen, with the extraordinary gentleman, people having like their take, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. I like how they did Russell Crowe's Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, where it's not like, oh, he gains a bunch of muscles like the Incredible Hulk. No, this guy, he gains like extra abilities, but he pretty much almost looks the same, except for a little deformed.
Right. Yeah. No, I like I said, I liked it, and I liked him in it, and Tom Cruise, and even his buddy is pretty funny. But yeah, it just didn't click with what was happening at the moment, I guess. But so it goes. I mean, it's like when they try to force something like that, that's when things fall apart. It almost has to happen naturally. Then, like if they did a Mummy movie with no intention of doing a bigger universe, then it might have worked better.
Yeah.
And Allison brings up the Midnight Suns.
Okay.
As in, I think it's sons as in brothers and sisters, sons, that's like the horror end of the Marvel universe. I'm not sure how that name comes into play, but I know it's been called that. But Allison goes, I want a version of Jekyll and Hyde that follows the book. Yeah, there you go. You're not going to get that in Hollywood unless it's like a director who has clout.
Right.
Like I'm excited for Dune, which is, it's not exactly horror, but it has some horror elements in it.
Yeah, for sure.
And it looks gorgeous. It's like somebody I knew commented that, oh, it looks too clean. Like, like a sand world wouldn't look that clean. I'm like, really? That's what you're that's what comes to your mind when you see the trailer for the movie.
Yeah.
Everybody, it's like lots of people have read the book, and lots of people have their own vision of how it should look.
Yeah.
But I freaking, for how tensive I was with a sort of Blade Runner sequel, because I freaking loved Blade Runner.
Yeah, my nephew, he went to free comic book day with me, and they actually had a free issue of Blade Runner for comic book day. I'm like, hey, you got to get that.
Oh, cool. But yeah, like the sequel to Blade Runner, which was I forget the year, 40 something, whatever it was, but it was really well done, and it was like, okay, Blade Runner is a movie that never truly would have a sequel because it stands alone and it's great on its own.
Yeah.
But if you get the same kind of universe years later with a bunch of the same characters in it, and tell a different story, it was really good. It was really good and really well done and beautiful to look at. And he has such a way of putting his vision out there. But well, yeah, I mean, like October's not too far away. It's a couple of months.
Yeah, speaking, we gotta get you on the show. I mean, you worked in Marvel and DC. You probably had opportunities in the past, maybe for someone to ask you to work on something like almost horror theme related.
Not really.
No? Oh man.
It was mostly like I was freelance, and
Yeah.
Aquaman is the opportunity I got at DC. But it's like I went up in their offices plenty of times and never really got anything else. It was just like timing or whatever. But
Yeah.
up at Marvel, a lot of what I did there, outside of like maybe Iron Man and some Punisher work, was all X-Men Office.
Yeah.
It was all X-Men books, and it was all most of it was completely just random, like pages here, pages there. The great thing about that is I worked on some fantastic artists that I wouldn't have gotten to otherwise. But yeah, I mean, it's like when you're freelance and you don't have a big name, then you take what you can get. And trust me, it's like I would have loved to work on some horror stuff up at Marvel or up at DC, but it's like the opportunity didn't happen at the time. And and they were going through like, Marvel's been through some major changes. In what books they put out and way the books are put out, like the stories that are written, as well as behind the scenes. The staff has changed so many times, the offices have moved and yada yada yada. But I mean, I will say, like, even though I've read tons of Stephen King books, most of my early life, I was not heavily a horror person. As I've grown older, I've opened up to it more.
Yeah.
I guess I've become less innocent in my attitudes and experience and whatever. But I'd be down at some point to do like a horror comic, like probably more like an EC book than anything else, but also something that's mature, that isn't, and isn't restricted by Comics Code or whatever. But,
oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, just go all hands out and do something really fun and wild, and even within what I'm going to be creating, my meta-human universe, there will be a horror-esque character.
Nice.
I have the female who has supernatural powers, so there'll be horror elements in that. It's not out and out a horror comic, but definitely, like, anything good is little aspects of everything anyway.
That's good.
Yeah. So what would you say is your favorite type of horror?
I really love, the body horror part. You have John Carpenter's The Thing is such a great book. I mean, not book, but movie. Like, right, where he's able to like take these like people and show how they transform into different aspects of like the same creature. So like even with the Uzumaki with Junyu Ito, when you're able to like make something scary just by the image and not having like too much like blood in everywhere, but if you could like make someone look deformed and terrifying, that is what's really awesome, and I love to work on.
Yeah, I mean, like, The Thing is a very pivotal movie in a lot of people's eyes, and it was super well done.
Yeah.
They tried to make a remake of it, and it wasn't, paled by comparison.
Yeah, because it was just CGI. I mean,
Yeah.
When you make,
yeah.
you got to make things like practical effects, especially when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah. But the greatest part of that movie is the end. So like spoilers. Where you don't know, like there's only 2 guys left, and you don't know who has the alien in them, and it's just and it just leaves you with the sight of them 2 facing each other and the light, and the question, like who is it?
Yeah.
It was really good, really good. And Allison agrees. And Landon showed up. He was in my earlier chat working on his commission. But yeah, if there's any final words you want to say, or direct people to where you want them to go check out your comic, or
go on Tapas to check out my comics there. Like I said, I try to update it like every month if my sickness isn't like really messing with me. And check me out on Thursdays with my co-host Jason Alexander, where we're reviewing horror comics and talking about horror in general. And I'll just share what I was working on while we were hanging out in the chats. So
cool.
Do that. Just wanted to work on like a cultist lady, because I know I'm gonna be having to do that within the comics. So I just wanted to get a feel on how I want to approach it. So yeah. That's cool. All I have to say is, Peter, thank for asking me to come on the show, invited me, and thank you everybody in the chats for saying the nice things. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you everybody for showing up. Thank you, Ronnie, for coming on. It's always
not a problem.
Fun.
Great as always.
His link tree is down below, and that has a lot of the links where you can track him down online. Mm-hmm. Please give this video a like so it gets seen across the YouTubes better. And of course, if you haven't already subscribed. And if you really care, then you'll share this video out, or even become a patron of mine to support myself and my channel. I'm here often, and this month almost every day. And I got guests coming this weekend, and more guests to fill into spots after that. But I've been working on my page Retro, which I'm going to get this done today, as well as the other page I was working on. Let me show that really quick. And I plan to get this page done too. This is a graphic novel called, what's it called? I forget. Let me look it up. I'm very professional. Designated is the name of that. Because it's like every page says Chosen Few, which is the old title. So it confuses me. But yeah. So this is all part of my Finish It Friday. I got to get some work done today. So thank you everybody for coming by. Thank you everybody for joining the chat. Allison, you ranked up some points on today's episode.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah.